Hello everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Star Watch. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jane. We are so happy to have you joining us for this weekly astrological transit report. So let's go ahead and delve right in. Let's not waste any time. So this week we have some kind of cool things happening. We have Venus moving into Leo and we have this full moon in Aquarius happening on the 11th. Okay, both of those things are happening on the 11th. So let's talk about this full moon a little bit because it's a powerful full moon, as was last month's in July in Capricorn. Last month's full moon was conjunct Pluto. And this month's is conjunct Saturn. Now, each Pluto and Saturn have very similar effects, okay? There's a lot of death, a lot of change, a lot of severance, a lot of destruction that can happen. Now, it doesn't mean bad destruction, all right? Just because we use the word destruction does not mean that something terrible is going to happen. It just means that something is coming to an end. And likely there has been a path that you've been on for quite some time that has gotten to a point where, like, you know that if you continue down this road, then you are only stealing from your future self. Okay, I think your future self, this is all Jupiter through Aries type stuff, all right? Your future self is wanting you in this particular moment in time to get out of that comfort zone, all right? It's asking you to push past your stubbornness and your fear and your insecurities and your doubts, okay? It's asking you to push past those things and step into something that is new and raw and exciting, but is more reflective of your authentic self. And this moon, last month's moon, this month's moon, and next month's, well, I say moon, but I mean full moon, these three full moons, Pluto influence, Saturnian influence, Neptunian influence, all right, they are absolutely going to help nudge us in that direction, not necessarily by pulling us forward, but by severing our relationship with the past. Now, this could speak to you in so many different ways, depending on which house this is taking place in. It could affect you with relationships, or with a career path, or with a particular place that you live, or with a certain financial pattern that, you know, you've kind of been perpetuating for quite some time, and now you've said, like, enough. I do think this full moon is like, enough. Enough is enough is enough. I'm tired. I am exhausted. I am sick of this. And it can no longer continue. And so you embrace the new, not necessarily by anything, you know, by going out and getting anything, so much as it is embracing the new by officially severing that relationship with the old. All right. So you may feel a little nervous because you're like, well, how can I sever the old, but not necessarily know what the new is going to bring, or how long it's going to take, or do I even have kind of a little bit of a safety net? And the stars are like, no, you don't have a safety net in the way that you would like to have a safety net, but you have a safety net in that you should hopefully have some faith in yourself, Jupiter through Aries. To have faith in yourself, to have belief in yourself. And this is a week too, right? We've got Mars in a sextile with Neptune and in a trine with Pluto. Okay, these are really positive aspects. All right, we like to see trines and sextiles because that energy flows. Okay, trines are kind of like Jupiterian energy, meaning there can be a lot of ease with that, and Venus is kind of the essence of a sextile, right? It's balanced and the energy flows nicely, and both planets are represented well. There's equality between those two planets. They can run side by side, evening out those scales a little bit. So when we have the Neptunian influence with Mars, now Mars is going to be finishing out its transit in Taurus this week. And next week, it's going to be moving into Gemini. And that's going to happen on the 20th. But the last degrees of Taurus here are enabling you to go deep within and find that belief, right? And again, even Jupiter in Aries is supporting the essence of self-belief. You can have all the doubt in the world, but you can also believe. To believe and have doubt is great, but if you only have doubt, that's not so great, right? That's going to hinder you, and it's going to, put you in a position of being held back. So if you can have doubt and belief, now maybe you don't have doubt. If you don't have doubt, great, amazing, roll with it. You're going to be super successful, right? But if you have belief, like, yes, I can. I know I can because I always have before, right? I've always survived before. I've always made it work before. There's always been some miracles before. And there's nothing that's really going to change about that. I don't have to hang on or cling to what I think is secure. I can move into an insecure environment to some degree, right? I can move into an insecure environment and establish security in that. And I think Neptune is really bringing the rose-colored glasses, because again, this is positive. So it's really bringing the rose-colored glasses, and it's saying, well, what if my world really does work out? What if this really can move forward? What if I really can earn that money? What if people really do, validate me? Or what if I find like my true talent, and I find my true abilities, and I find, growth within my business? And like, what if that actually happens? And I think Neptune really offering the what if, but in the best possible ways, where Pluto is offering that inner, it's almost like a compulsion. Like you can't help but move in that direction. You can't help it. You can't stop it, because Moon conjunct Saturn, and also last month's Moon in Capricorn conjunct Pluto, they're both kind of dictate, like you just simply don't have a choice but to go forward. You simply don't have a choice but to make the changes or make the revisions that are necessary. You just don't. And as the Moon this week goes through Pisces and goes through Aries, and Mars gets closer and closer here, and Venus makes her way more comfortably in Leo, I think that there is this settling, like you get to settle within yourself of like, yes, okay, I can do this. And now that I've been doing it for a few days, or now that it's getting a little bit more normal, because even if you just do something for a couple days, it gains some traction. It feels like, okay, I can take this and run with it now. And I think you're going to feel that. A little bit of unease with the Moon, and then it irons out. I don't know that any wrinkles in your life, or any wrinkles in your plans, or any things that you don't have control over won't rectify themselves fairly soon, within the next couple of weeks before that new Moon in Virgo hits. All right, so we have a couple weeks here to allow things to iron out, to allow the wrinkles to be, to be straightened. But you can deal with the wrinkles a little bit. They're not that bad. All right, they're not that bad. And as Venus moves into Leo, of course, and this is going to continue with the Sun in Leo, so much about deserving and self-worth, and feeling like you can, and feeling like you want to be seen and understood and appreciated. You want to express yourself. You want to bring your energy into things. You want to be creative. You want to. And because this compelling need of Pluto is an aspect with Mars, we have the action-oriented component here. Mars is saying, okay, we're doing it. It's like, while you're doing it, you have to continually remind yourself that you're doing it. Because it's no longer just an idea at this point. This is an idea set in motion. This is you acting on it, you doing it. And this is you carrying out your end of the manifestation bargain, right? Meeting the universe halfway and saying, universe, I'm going to show you that I'm ready. I'm going to show you I'm ready for that money. I'm going to show you I'm ready for this love of my life. I'm going to show you I'm ready for this better lifestyle. And I'm going to show you by being the embodiment of a person that would have that. My idea of what I would be like if I had that thing. So you are bringing your manifestation to life. You probably don't have it yet in the external world. But when you are and this is kind of like one of those fake, not necessarily fake it till you make it, but more act as if. Act as if it has already happened. Act as if you have the money. Now, I'm not telling you to put yourself like in tons of debt, right? Because let's say you act as if you have $100 million. I'm not telling you to go buy like a $10 million boat or something, right? Obviously not. But hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Like, if someone had $100 million, would you be so worried and stressed about paying your $100 cell phone bill? Would you be so worried about paying a mortgage? Would you be so worried about other things, your day to day, right? No, act as if, bring that energy into it, that energy of ease and relaxation and deserving, and not even necessarily deserving, because I think even that has a little bit of a twinge of not having. More so, bring the energy of familiarity to it. Can you do that? Can you bring an energy of familiarity? Like, one of the things I always recommend for people who are struggling financially, now this won't apply to everybody. Some of you are great financially and your life is going well in that direction, but this is just a point of visualization. If you're struggling financially, one of the best things you can do is set your bills on auto pay, right? Because you don't think about it. And when you don't think about it, you don't stress about it. And when you don't stress about it, you realize that the money comes in more easily. You realize that that money fills in. So it becomes this like really easy, not on the top of your mind thing, and you're able to focus on other things. So that kind of, the familiarity and the ease kind of go hand in hand. One of the exercises that Abraham Hicks gives, again, I'm doing another financial example. I understand that some of you are not focused on money right now, but because we have the North Node in Taurus, I have been, and I will continue to use a lot of material and money-oriented examples. One of the Abraham Hicks examples or exercises is to practice writing big checks. Like you can go and print off a whole bunch of fake checks or get like an old checkbook. You know how we used to have those, right? Those old checkbooks. And just write out checks, say, okay, well, today I'm going to write out a check for $1,000, and to be creative in that exercise and say, well, what could I buy for $1,000? Okay, maybe I buy myself like a nice weekend vacation somewhere. Okay, so you write that out to, this fake hotel in Miami or something, okay? You write that check out. And then the next day you do a $2,000 check. And then the next day you do a $3,000 check and a $4,000 and a $5,000. And it actually gets hard. Like I've done that exercise before. It gets hard because you're like, wow, like that's so much money. And what could I, once you get to like the $7,000 and $8,000 mark, you're like, what could I even spend for $7,000 or $8,000? Like you kind of run out of things. Right? But it's that process of familiarization, bringing yourself into the comfort of writing these big checks and making it not such a big deal and writing it as though it's nothing and just saying, okay, well, here's a check for $15,000. Here we go. Here's for this. Here we go. Here's a $30,000 check. Here we go. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this. And even though it isn't real, it's real up here because you're actually enacting it in your physical reality. Okay. So I went on that whole tangent. I'm so sorry, but that's what I think. That manifestation is like kind of changing from that feeling of deserving, from that feeling of being familiar with it. And to create in our world experience, to create in our world reality, situations and scenarios, whether they are real or enacted, it doesn't really matter. Your mind doesn't really work like that. Even if you're just acting like it or pretending like it, you absolutely 100% can benefit from that. And I'll tell you what, right as soon as I started doing that check writing exercise, I was literally writing checks for like $7,500 contractor, $7,500 here, $8,000 there, $4,000 there, just every week a new bill for something else. But it like didn't feel like anything. It's just like, okay, here you go. Like no problem, and the money came back like that, boom. And that's kind of what I'm sensing with this Venus through Leo, to be that royalty and whatever that means for you. And sometimes, as we're growing and we're learning, it can be hard for us to like say, okay, well, what is 100 million really like? But we can maybe envision 100,000, so I'm not telling you to push yourself or to put yourself in a situation where you experience that resistance, but put yourself in a mindset, put yourself in an energy where it feels like a little bit of a stretch, but also plausible. And Venus through Leo is going to ensure that something clicks in your life, something realigns, something comes in or goes out or whatever, something occurs that brings you closer and closer to this like state of majesty, right? That's what Leo is. It's like the kings and the queens and the all powerful and the fully in control, you know, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be this selfish person. In fact, actually, probably, you know, you're going to be helping a lot more people and being of greater service. As Mercury in Virgo, you know, Mercury is preparing for a Mercury retrograde. That's happening on the 9th of September, but Mercury is going to start slowing down here as it moves into shadow phase. But because Mercury is so service oriented, and eventually the sun is going to be coming in next week, we'll talk about it, but the sun is going to come into Virgo. So that more being of service and being of value in the world is going to be accentuated even that much more. And that's going to be, you know, as the sun moves through Virgo and the Mercury retrograde happens, that's going to be in aspect with the stuff over here in Taurus, Uranus and North Node. Now remember, the Uranus North Node conjunction is like for 5 months. So August, September, October, November, and December. And then in January, Uranus will go direct again, and they're going to start separating off of each other. But this is a window to really find something that you truly value, that makes you feel like your value is making a positive contribution in the world, which is ultimately going to bring greater levels of fulfillment and satisfaction for you. And Virgo is here to support that. Now, again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Leo, I think, is just getting us to that point of like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can do it. You can make it happen. You can grow. You can succeed. 100% yes. Venus is going to trail behind the sun to accentuate that even more and to carry out that feeling just a little bit longer, because maybe you need a little bit more time to really feel that within yourself. Yes, I can. I can, and I deserve it, and it's possible, and there is a way. And then once we hit Virgo, it will be more about the doing of stuff. Like, okay, now that you know you can and you believe that you can, right? Mars in a sextile with Neptune. Now that you believe that you can, now you get to implement and apply the things that you know you need to do in order to get there and to really do it and to fully actually be it. It's no longer a pretend familiarization exercise, but it becomes more of a reality for you. Okay? And honestly, things can start moving quickly now, because when we hit the Virgo mark, because Virgo is the sixth zodiac sign. And then when we hit Libra, that's the 7th. So we kind of are moving into the second half of the zodiac. And that's really when things start fully changing, right? We hit autumn or fall, southern hemisphere, you hit spring. So in generally speaking, there's a massive changeover of seasons, where, you know how we have like mutable signs that kind of close out the season and prepare for the next season. I often think of spring and fall as the transitionary seasons between winter and summer, where winter and summer are more stagnant and more fixed. And then spring and summer, right? Because from spring, we go from completely dead to full bloom. And then in fall, we go from full bloom to completely barren. And so those spring and autumn is really where everything truly happens. And to synchronize ourselves and to synchronize our bodies and our actions and our manifestations with the seasons is highly beneficial when we understand. Summertime is about sustaining and flourishing and allowing things to continue. But in the autumn, things need to start changing over, and things need to kind of either be torn apart and restructured throughout Capricorn and Aquarius season, or, you know, they need to be like, there needs to be something that happens during those times. So we're kind of moving into that. Obviously, that'll be late September and October when we hit Libra season. But Virgo season is right before that. And so we're kind of, you know, making sure that all the loose ends are truly all wrapped up before we hit that moment of change. But still, we're in that position of just hyping ourselves up to believe that it's possible. We're hyping ourselves up. We're feeling deserving. We're embodying things. We're growing. We're developing. We're feeling more secure. And we're feeling like we truly deserve it. And we feel like this is a very real possibility for us in our life. And not just in our life in the long term, but for our life like right now. Okay, so what you do here is actually quite powerful in terms of how you're interacting with the universe. When you allow and do not fight endings and you allow beginnings, this is when the beauty and this is when the magic starts happening. And this is when you truly are a magician, right? If we can pull in the tarot cards, these are like magician moments right here that kind of separates the chaff from the wheat, right? Separates the knowing and the unknowing. It separates the wise from the ignorant. Okay, and so I know that you are wanting to be more wise and utilize the wisdom that is at your disposal because you've spent all this time, all this energy, all this attention on learning and growing and healing and developing and meditating and all of this. And you might as well build a life that you're really, really, really happy with. Right? All right, so we are going to leave you with that. Thank you guys so much. That was a pretty much of a tangent reading, but hopefully you got something out of it. You guys know I love you. I wish you nothing but the best. Have a great week. Take care.